Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Joanne. I want to just give you a quick roundup of some things that have happened. Today is probably the biggest day of the year in Melbourne. It is the AFL Grand Final day, and unfortunately it's in Perth because we're in lockdown and COVID. And ironically, it's two Melbourne teams. I live in the western suburbs of Melbourne, and the Western Bulldogs is playing versus Melbourne. So I guess for me, based on the fact that I'm in the western suburbs, it's go doggies, but that's not my team. So it's in Perth, which has I can't remember if it's 2 or 3 hours off the top of my head, but it's a late start. It's a night match, which I don't like. I prefer day matches, but then I'm a traditionalist when it comes to the AFL Grand Final. So the other thing is I'm looking to be back live from Monday night, so we are doing well. But I thought I'd just go through some of the stuff that's been happening, particularly in Australia. I know I didn't update yesterday, but it's just all really, really – we've had protests right throughout the week, and one of the protesters has tested positive to COVID, believe it or not. And now, of course, we have got a situation where our law enforcement have been deemed close contacts. So this was yesterday. So officers have been identified. Let me just get that up. Officers have been identified as close contacts to a COVID positive case who was at the protests in Melbourne this week. Meanwhile, the Western Australia Premier Mark McGowan has warned any Western Australians who are in Victoria, if they want to return home, they need to do it now because they're just tightening the restrictions. So there was 215 penalty notices issued for breaching the health directions from Friday. There is a website called COVID Base Australia, which was actually designed by children. It's amazing, isn't it? So there was 31 arrested yesterday. Police confirmed as close contact. Now, yes, the protester, that one is there. Yeah, this is it. And then today, there's another protest. So police make a handful of arrests as Melbourne anti-lockdown protesters converge at St Kilda. They've picked a different location every day. So there was about 50 protesters today in St Kilda. So the AMA Victoria's Vice President said the potential spread of COVID from the protests are likely to be seen next week. We've already had a jump in cases. So the gathering follows small protests across Melbourne on Friday where there were 200 arrested. The heart of Melbourne has seen protests throughout the week, which began on Monday. And then there was Tuesday. They shut down the Westgate Bridge. But the city has just been swarmed with police officers, as I said. So the AMA's Victorian Vice President Sarah Whitelaw said healthcare workers have been watching in fear at this week's, at times, violent protests. I think all of us have had such a difficult week, and this pandemic has pushed us all to the brink. This week has been really difficult. The violence is obviously horrible, and spitting at healthcare workers, being violent with police, is obviously devastating, damaging way to deal with your anger. So there was some spitting. A couple of vaccination centres in the city were closed down because there was violence there. One protester who attended Monday's rally was admitted to hospital after testing positive to COVID, and a number of officers have been identified as close contacts. But she said being concerned about the possibility of super spreading events and the healthcare system being overwhelmed did not mean it was impossible to understand the pain and impacts of lockdown. So, yeah, it's been really, really painful. But lockdowns, that's, as anybody will tell you, they're not fun. I don't particularly like them, but I understand them. However, not everybody. Not everybody has sat around and moped around over protesting. Songwriter Frank Paul finally fulfills his dream to record an album at the age of 87. 87. So at a time when dreams are on hold for many Australians in lockdown, Frank Paul's story is a reminder never to give up. His face lights up and his voice booms through the room when he sings about the people and places of his childhood and early life. The North Queensland man had been writing songs and memoirs for decades, and now at 87, fulfilling his dreams into turning the songs into an album. I can't remember names, but I can remember most of his songs. I could never sing to music or anything like that. I wasn't too good. But if I'm sitting on my own, I just let go what I think. For at least 30 years, songwriting has been his creative outlet. Some of the songs have taken up to 10 years to write, until recently were unheard. But that all changed when Mr. Paul came across an article in his local newspaper about a nearby music studio last year. That stuck my eye. I thought this could be all right. Scott Netterskill from the production studio Sugartown Music said recording the album was as much about helping Mr. Paul reach his goal as it was about preserving priceless local history. I see how important it is for these songs, because once these generations have gone, the history is gone. I think Frank's a treasure. We're going to give a copy to the Mackay Library. Black Butt by the River, Songs, Narratives and Memoirs by Frank Paul. So there you go. And so he's got the album's titled Black Butt by the River, and he talks about being 10 or 11 down the river on his own. He went walking out to the black butt tree, saw the fish that were there having a great time, taken back by it, and he has done a song about it. Other songs features memories of time spent at rodeos, the pub and Ray's Diner, a beloved local pie cart from way back. Mr. Paul C is not worried about how his music sounds, just that his songs have come to fruition after many years. Slowly the songs got better. It's been like a hobby. So if you're trying to do music, don't be worried about how long it takes. Isn't that a great story, though? Don't ever give up. Don't ever give up. So let's get on to the French and the Australians, because we're not very, the French aren't very happy with us, as we know. French Trade Minister rejects invitation to meet with Australian counterpart over subs deal. So the French just aren't returning calls. This is Dan Tehan. He's unsuccessfully attempted to secure a meeting. Wow. So Australian Trade Minister Frank Tehan has pleaded with his French counterpart to work through tensions between the nations after France's Trade Minister turned down an offer to meet in Paris next month. France is still seething with anger after Australia bailed on a $90 billion submarine contract in favour of a deal with the US and UK to help Australia switch to nuclear-powered boats. Australia's Trade Minister Dan Tehan will be in Paris next month for an Organisation for Economic Cooperation and Development meeting, and has extended an invitation to meet his counterpart. Hang on, why are we travelling overseas? Why have we got politicians travelling overseas? Our borders are closed because we have the Delta outbreak, which is causing the country complete and utter chaos. And we've got the Prime Minister jet setting off. I don't know. I just find it very hypocritical. Australia's Trade Minister, my hope is that we'll be able to sit down and discuss this issue. There's an open invitation for me to sit down with my French counterpart and be able to explain the decision. A decision that was taken in our national interests, which was about protecting our sovereignty, our security, and I would be able to sit down and work that through with my counterpart. Too little too late, mate. That should have been done beforehand. But anyway, good luck. But an official from Mr. Reister's office said that offer had already been rejected. We won't follow up the Australian minister's request for a meeting. We can't go on as if it was business as usual, the French official said. When asked about the rejection, an optimistic Mr. Tehan remained hopeful the pair could sit down and discuss the issue. When I saw the report, what I did was I spoke to our ambassador in Paris and just said, please just extend that invitation. It's an open invitation. I'd be more than willing to sit down and talk to our counterpart and work through this issue, he said. Prime Minister Scott Morrison has also tried without success to speak to President Emmanuel Macron in the wake of the deal. Paris recalled its ambassadors in Australia and the US, following the submarine's announcement. While it has said it would send its US ambassador back after the French and the US presidents moved to mend ties in a phone call, it remains furious with Canberra. Foreign Shadow Minister Penny Wong said it was another example of how the federal government has mishandled the deal. It's concerning and yet demonstrates yet again the way in which Mr. Morrison handled this was to focus on the announcement, not doing what the country needed him to do, which was to manage that announcement with our other partners. Mr. Morrison is in the United States for a series of high-level diplomatic talks, including the inaugural face-to-face meeting of the Quad's leader. But Penny Wong said the entire trip had been overshadowed by the rift between France and Australia. It's unsurprising Mr. Morrison has spent most of this week in damage control over the reaction of the French, who are understandably pretty furious about the way they've been treated. Clearly, he hasn't done enough when it comes to dealing with an Indo-Pacific partner, and that is France. What do you reckon about that? So there's still this submarine furor. So, unfortunately, there has been something happen in India. Look at this. This is pretty scary. So gunman just as lawyer shoots dead gangster in Indian courtroom shootout. So in India, there was a shootout. A gunman dressed as lawyers have shot dead a notorious Indian gangster inside the Delhi courtroom before being killed by police. So Jitendra Gogi, a mobster detained last year, was standing before a judge when two men suddenly opened fire, police said. Witnesses said a dozen shots were fired in the battle in the courtroom. Gogi was hit up to 5 times before the fake lawyers were killed by police. The gunmen were from a rival gang, police told reporters. At least one of the 2 attackers were also on Delhi's police's wanted list. The gunman erupted after Gogi entered the court for a hearing on a murder charge, amongst others. He's been linked to at least 19 murder cases. Mobile phones, videos of the shooting showed lawyers and litigants running for their lives in the corridor outside the courtroom as gunshots rang out. The gunmen wore grey suits and were posing as lawyers before they pulled out guns, police said. 2 criminals opened fire at gangster Jitendra Man Gogi when he was taken to the court for hearing, Delhi Police Commissioner Rakesh Hassandra said. In retaliation, police shot dead both attackers. Questions were immediately raised about the security at the court complex, which often deals with hearings involving high-profile criminals. Since his capture, Gogi's protection had been placed in the hands of a police intelligence unit, but some reports said metal detectors at the court entrances were not working and other security rules were not applied. Delhi Bar Association President Sanjeev Nasir said the deaths were shocking. He said lawyers in all Delhi district courts would go on strike on Saturday to protest against what they have called a high security lapse. How can this happen inside the court? The police hold regular security review meetings with us, and outsiders still manage to enter the premises with weapons. Delhi police said an investigation would be held into the court security. Gogi, who was about 30, had been linked to the brutal gang bailers, murders, robberies and extortion in Delhi and states across northern India. His victims included the folk singer who had witnessed a murder as well as rival gang members. He was first captured in 2016 but escaped from police custody and had evaded capture until last year. Media reports said he'd been in a murderous turf war with gang. So, what do you reckon about that? So let's have a look, just finally, the 3 teenage boys. Oops. These were 3 teenage boys, very smart, and they should be congratulated. Look at them. So they have actually set up a tracking site. So the brains behind a popular COVID-19 tracking website have unmasked themselves, much to everybody's surprise, a trio of teenage boys. The faces, there they are, look at them, with their vaccines. They've been vaccinated. The faces behind the data website, COVID Base AU, are Jack, Darcy and Wesley, and they chose the day they got their Moderna vaccinations to reveal their identities. The group said they had an idea for a website, came about after wanting to create a place to simplify the data and present it in an easy-to-understand format. The website has already become a big favourite among thousands of Australians. Darcy's really skilled in coding, and I'm sort of really into news and have been really interested in the data. So we decided to take what we've been doing and sort of create something that Jack told the ABC News. The website and its associated social media pages track the number of new cases, vaccination rates, and tests taken, and the source of infection. We've spent a lot of time on it to try and make it as comprehensive as possible. The government releases data in all sorts of different places and in different formats. So when Jack was collecting all this data, I helped him put it together and display it on a website so that it's accessible for everyone. During Melbourne's lockdown, the trio said they had a lot of time to balance the work of the website with school, but Jack admitted it was a bit of a balancing act. The trio stayed anonymous since the website's inception, but said they always knew they would give their identities away at the perfect time. It paid off. The big reveal gained the attention of thousands on Twitter and other social media platforms. A photo of the boys revealing their identities had been shared 1.5 thousand times on Twitter, where a group of youth have a devout following of 25,000 people. During Friday's COVID update, Chief Health Officer Brett Sutton acknowledged the teens were not only very clever, but now also first-dose vaccinated teenagers. It was only recently that 12 to 15-year-olds have been eligible for vaccinations, and the boys said the process were very easy. I haven't had any side effects, and none of us have. Yeah, we just went down to the pharmacy nearby us. I've always been keen to get it since, I suppose, the rollout started. I always knew that I'd be in one of the last groups, so I'm sort of surprised it's been today and this early. It's been fantastic. So what do you reckon about these intelligent, smart boys who set up a website so that essentially they've taken all the information from around the country and they've put it on a website. So there you go. COVID Base AU is their Twitter handle. So let's have a look. This is them. And so this is their website. I would recommend that you go and have a look. COVID Tracking Australia includes. So let's look at their website. I like that. It says they unveiled themselves. Today, boom. Today, the three of us who run COVID Base AU had our first dose. So here we go. So this is, oh wow, this is actually really, really cool. So COVID Base AU. So we're sitting at 74% of 16 population have had one dose, 50% fully vaccinated. So they're the total cases of deaths, tests, and in the world, doses administered, and then the vaccinations. Wow, they've got it all here, haven't they? It's really quite good. So you can click on the state, so you can click on Victoria. So they put all this together. So this is today. That's administered doses. Let's have a look at cases, because we had 847 cases today, 7-day average community transmission. How many are in hospital? So there's 297 in hospital, 66 in ICU, and 41 on ventilation. Ventilated. We've had one death again overnight. Active cases. Recovered 14 days overseas, so the ones that have been in quarantine. Here are the age groups that they've not done. Then the LGAs, where they've all come from. Wow, my area is pretty bad. I can see that. As I'm scrolling down. So that is the website. So it's called covidbaseau.com/. I'm gonna put that in the description below, along with their Twitter handle. So make sure you give them a shout out. some very smart, intelligent boys. In fact, we're going to follow that right now. And I'm very excited to be able to share that really amazing news. 0.932% of the test report today in New South Wales returned a positive result. And they've got the data there. So that they have all the information on COVID, which is really, really cool. Very clever. So Victorian cases by age. So this is the thing that I've been really interested in. So there's 400. Right, there's 5. Is that boy and girl? Is it? Yeah. So there's 506 boys, 472 girls with COVID in Victoria, between the ages of 0 to 9. There's 642 boys and 578 girls between 10 and 19, 874 boys and 776 girls between 20 to 29, between 30 and 39, 699 and 627, 40 to 49, 405 to 393, 50 to 59, 349, 301, 60, 69, 162, 146, and 70 plus, 90 and 121. So if we look, our biggest age range at the moment is this one. Are these middle ones here? Look at that. So between the ages of 10 to 49 are where our biggest cases are. So interesting, isn't it? Anyway, I want to thank you for joining me. And as I said, I'll be back on Monday. And I hope these little bits of information have been helpful. So thank you for watching, and I will catch you again soon. Bye for now.